I've spent more than 25 years moving through Asia. This episode is about me as a frequent business traveler living in Asia at the age of 65. At first, living abroad feels like freedom. Everything is new. Different cities, different languages, different ways of living. And don't get me wrong, I still love it. I'm very happy that I can still travel, especially for my work. Yeah.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah. Good? Business? But because I travel so much, I stop feeling like a visitor. My relationship with home starts changing too. Not in a dramatic way, but slowly. That's not a problem, but I do notice that I start to see places in a different way. Probably that's a part of living abroad for a long time. You gain freedom, but your perspective changes permanently too. When people talk about living abroad, they usually focus on practical things like cost of living, the weather, food, apartments. But after enough years, the experience becomes more psychological than practical because moving abroad changes more than only your location. It changes how you see life itself. When I first started spending time in Asia, everything felt temporary, like an extended trip. But years pass quickly. One country becomes another, one hotel becomes the next, one project becomes another chapter. And slowly, movement itself starts becoming normal. You stop thinking in terms of home and abroad. Life simply becomes a movement. And honestly, there's something beautiful about that. You become more adaptable, more open. You realize there are many ways to live life, not just the system you grow up with. That change you forever. And I think that part is positive, very positive. But there is another side too. After enough years abroad, returning home starts feeling different. Not bad, but just different. You notice things you never noticed before. The pace, the conversations, the mentality. And then something strange happens. You realize your old home continued without you. Life moved on. People changed. Cities changed. And you changed too. At the same time, you also understand that you will never fully become local in Asia either, even after decades. You may understand the culture better, you may speak some language, you may feel comfortable here, but deep down you still remain slightly outside of it. And perhaps that is normal. Maybe long-term expat life always exists somewhere in between. Not fully leaving, not fully arriving either. I think this becomes more noticeable with age. When you are young, constant movement feels exciting. At 25, airports feel like adventure. But at 65, you start asking different questions. Where do I actually belong? Where will I grow old? What does home even mean now? Sometimes I think long-term expats become observers of life more than participants in one fixed society. You learn to adapt everywhere, but completely belonging becomes much harder. Maybe that is the trade-off. Freedom gives you perspective, but perspective also creates distance. Still, I would never describe this life as a failure, not at all. Living abroad has given me experiences I could never have had otherwise. Different cultures, different people, different ways of thinking, and perhaps most importantly, it forced me to rebuild myself more than once. That changed a person. But I do think there's a side of long-term expat life that becomes more reflective later on, especially after 60. Because eventually you stop thinking only about freedom. You also start to think about stability, connections, support systems, the future. Not from fear, but just realism. And I think many people quietly understand this feeling, especially those who have spent decades moving between countries. You are grateful for the freedom, but you also understand the cost of constantly living between worlds. Maybe that is why airports feel strangely emotional after enough years. Not because you are arriving somewhere, and not because you are leaving either, but because movement itself become a part of your identity. People often think moving abroad is mainly about escaping something, but after enough years it becomes more about perspective. You stop seeing life from only one cultural position, and once that happens, it becomes very difficult to completely go back to the way you once saw the world. Maybe that is the invisible side of expat life. Not loneliness, not regret, just change. The kind of change that happens slowly over decades. Until one day you realize you became someone shaped by movement itself. And perhaps that was always the journey from the beginning. Thanks for watching.